News from the President of the United States that there has been an attack inside Iran. Just moments ago, President Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. Again, this from President Donald Trump. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors.
But there are huge questions about what the reaction is and what happens next. Now, President Trump again says on Truth Social, he refers to let's make peace. Well, is Iran going to be ready to make peace? Now America has taken part in this bombing. What will the reaction be in the wider region, where we saw on Friday, after midday prayers, significant protests, tens, hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets in many countries throughout the region, angry at Israel's bombing, and a lot of that anger will now turn to the United States. As we've said, there will be huge concerns for the safety of U.S. civilians, U.S. military, U.S. interests throughout this region, which are multifarious, not just troops on the ground. You have the U.S. Fifth Fleet docked in the region, in the Gulf. You have military camps spread throughout the region, but of course you have multiple businesses, embassies, consulates. So there are huge numbers of things to be of concern about. There have been certainly worries about the U.S. consulate here in Tel Aviv and whether or not that would potentially be a site for retaliation.
We just saw another post from President Trump. He says, I will be giving an address to the nation at 10 p.m. Eastern Time at the White House regarding our very successful military operation in Iran. This is an historic moment for the United States of America, Israel, and the world, he says. Iran must now agree to end this war. Thank you, says the president. Hal, the word historic. How historic is it? The U.S. just struck within Iran proper.
I think it's pretty historic.
Striking nuclear facilities, 3 nuclear sites within Iran. I want to read the statement in full for our viewers from the president. He says, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. We were tracking this throughout the day, Natasha, those B-2 bombers that were headed there, and he is now saying they have attacked Fordo. This post goes on to read, congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Throughout the day, we were tracking if the president would get involved. He set, of course, this 2-week deadline of if they were or were not going to get involved, the U.S., of course. And now we're seeing he made this decision ultimately within 3 days for the U.S. to get involved in this conflict with Iran. Now, of course, we watch to see how Iran responds to this, how they will retaliate. A lot of questions remaining in the air right now. If the president was in communication with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ahead of these strikes. And right before I came on to speak with you and we were monitoring this situation, Natasha, I saw Secretary of State Marco Rubio outside of the West Wing working the phones. And then moments right after I saw him hang up the phone, President Trump posted this on social media, and we know that he's still in the Oval Office meeting with his national security team. But this is a defining moment for President Trump and his presidency as he now announces that the U.S. has joined Israel in its fight against Iran, Natasha.
Yeah, and we are continuing to cover this breaking news. Is these 3 nuclear sites in Iran that were the target of these attacks? Does it seem from preliminary information that Fordo, though, was the primary target here? President Trump describing a full payload of bombs. What are we learning about that?
Yeah, you saw that, Natasha, in the end of that post there, specifically talking about Fordo and how a full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. And throughout the week, this was something we were tracking. Fordo, this site that President Trump acknowledged the Israeli arsenal did not have the strength to go all the way underground and fully destabilize this site in Fordo. And moving forward, of course, this was something that the U.S. was very adamant on, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And Fordow was, of course, a primary site of them building this nuclear weapon in Iran. We're, of course, going to continue and watch what the developments are out of Iran tonight as we monitor the president still in the Oval Office with his national security team, likely going to be a late night here at the White House, Natasha.
Yeah, certainly. And it seems that that primary facility where Iran was conducting uranium enrichment, any confirmation so far on if those attacks were successful in actually penetrating deep enough into that entire tunnel system, that deep bunker where the uranium enrichment was taking place?
I've been monitoring the White House here, Natasha, and haven't been able to monitor what's going on the ground in Iran just yet. But of course, that was the goal of this strike by the U.S. on Fordow, was to destabilize and stop them from building any uranium enrichment there. So likely that's what the U.S. is hoping for.
Do you have any sense of how quickly that developed and where it came from?
Well, he told us that he was going to make this decision at the last second. I don't think that was quite what happened here, but this came together incredibly quickly. And this is, without question, the most consequential decision Donald Trump has ever made. And where this goes, will this be consistent with the promise that he made when he first got in to politics, when he first became a presidential candidate, and he talked about ending forever wars? The question now is, did he just possibly take the first step towards ending what has effectively been a forever war, which is United States adversity with Iran, something that goes back to the hostage crisis and the seizing of our embassy in 1979. Iran has been a challenge for every American president since Jimmy Carter, in many ways overshadowing other initiatives, other efforts to get objectives in the Middle East. So did he effectively put an end to the Iranian threat, or was this the first salvo in yet another forever war in the Middle East? I reached out to a prominent Arab diplomat from a country that's allied with the United States with a simple question. I think this is the question that we should all be asking: what now? What next? And this diplomat said, honestly, no clue. The Iranians have a vote now. So what happens? We have 40,000 troops roughly in the Middle East. That's a force, and it's a force that can be used to protect American assets, to attack the Iranians, but it's also a target with. And the Iranians, their nuclear program may now effectively be gone, but the thousands of mid-range missiles it has, short-range missiles it has, can be used to target not just American troops and American assets in the region, but American allies. I don't know which way this is going to go, but I can tell you this: this has the feel of a decision that is far weightier than any Donald Trump has had to make in his time as a political figure, in his time as president.
This comes after days of negotiations to try to get Iran to the negotiating table. The president of the United States saying it would have to be unconditional surrender, saying enrichment would have to stop. We heard from negotiations in Europe that was not being accepted by the Iranians, that they would not stop enriching uranium. There was a thought that this could go as long as 2 weeks, as the president said he would decide within 2 weeks. However, 2 days is within 2 weeks. And now word from President Donald Trump that these attacks have happened. Again, interesting that 3 sites have been struck by U.S. bombers. And this, again, we'll get more information about the exact targets and what bombs were used. We expect that the GBU-57, the bunker buster, the massive penetrator bomb, may have been one of those used. Fordow is a nuclear facility inside Iran that is roughly a half-mile deep underneath a rock mountain-like facility that has been said to be the site of a lot of the enrichment capability. Esfahan, believed to be a storage storage facility for enriched uranium, and Natanz another part of the nuclear facilities. They have several throughout Iran. It has been long described as a very difficult and tedious effort to go after these nuclear sites, but the U.S. for the first time launching an attack inside Iran. Again, the President of the United States saying all of the planes are out of Iranian airspace. The bombings do continue by the Israelis inside Iran as this back and forth volley between Israel and Iran has continued for some 2 weeks. We expect to hear more about this operation, not only from the Pentagon, but perhaps from the White House, although the White House this evening, has called a lid, as far as meaning no one will talk after that. That may be changing now.